Good evening, everyone. My name is Brittany, and I'm an admissions representative with Kansas State University Online. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight to learn more about our online curriculum and instruction EDD program. I'm joined by Dr. Spencer Clark, who's going to spend roughly the next 30 minutes or so giving us a presentation about this program. And then during that time, I will also be monitoring the chat and answering some questions as we go, but there may be some questions that I save until the end for Dr. Clark to answer. Also want to let you know that this will be recorded and we will be sending out a recording of this presentation sometime in the future to everybody who registered. So if you're joining late or need to head out early, we are recording this so you can watch it later on. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Clark.
Great, thanks, Brittany. I appreciate it, and thank you all for joining us tonight. And I think I'm looking at some of the names. It looks like I've talked with many of you already about the program, and so that's great. And hopefully, I can add some details and provide more information that will help you make a good decision about the doctoral program. So. I am the EDD coordinator at KState in the Department of Curriculum Instruction, and so I'm kind of the go-to for all the questions on that, and will be kind of the main advisor if you're in the program. And so it's actually a program that I created, and it's based on just kind of some of the roadblocks and speed bumps that we saw happening with practicing educators in our PhD and our old EDD program. And so we wanted to kind of revise the program to better fit working educators. And it is more K through 12 focused, but we do have some individuals that are in teacher education programs at community colleges or other universities and colleges across the country too that also are working on EDD. So it fits a wide range of needs. It's not just for teachers, but also for principals, administrators, district leadership and administration. And so we have a wide range of students in our program. Just a little overview, as Brittany mentioned, we'll have about a 30-minute presentation, and then we'll leave the rest of the time for questions. Feel free to ask questions though throughout if we're on a slide and there's something that sparks a question. Brittany will respond or jump in and ask me to. If you have a second here, just to check out the chat, maybe put in there where you're from, and just as a nice way to check in. So. All right, so the big question is why K-State? There's a lot of other universities out there. I will say there are not quite as many EDDs in curriculum instruction. I can only think of a handful that are out there, and most of those are at private universities. So as you can imagine, our cost is quite a bit less than Baylor or USC. And so per year, we run about $10,725. And that's actually cheaper than it was when I started this program. I had to go in and edit that because during COVID, we dropped our rates a little bit. So it's actually even better deal than when we started. And so, and that's because it's through the global campus rate. And so you don't pay out-of-state tuition. You don't pay international tuition. It's all set at that global rate of $510 per semester, or per hour, sorry. And so that per year cost is based on 21 hours per year. And I'll go through the program of study here in a little bit. But that's roughly 6 hours in the fall, 6 hours in spring, and 9 hours in the summer. Okay. We've also packaged this doctorate program to be 3 years. We've had a majority of our graduates already do that in less than 3 years, which is kind of cool. And then we've also had some people that have taken a little bit longer. So that 3 years is kind of the median. We set it up just based on when courses are offered and kind of the typical time frame for students. But all in all, it's a very flexible program. And we've had people that come in, and I'll talk a little more about this later, but they come in with some credits they want to transfer in, or they have an EDS degree from Fort Hays or somewhere else. And those all help kind of move you through the program a little quicker also. Convenience is another big reason. It's 100% online and asynchronous. So, you know, it meets kind of the busy work schedule of educators. A lot of our classes range from either being completely asynchronous, where there's no course meetings, to there's course meetings each week, but they're optional, and where the professor records them and then uploads them to our learning management system, Canvas, so that you can watch them at your own convenience, because we actually have people all over the world in the program. And so they are not able to make a 7 o'clock Central Time class necessarily if they're in Japan or Saudi Arabia. So it works out really well. And then I'm kind of in the middle, where I have classes every 2 weeks. And again, they're optional. We record them, and for those who can't make it. But if there are class meetings, they are 95% of them are in the evenings. There's one class in the summer that isn't always in the evenings, but yeah, all of them are in the evenings or afternoons. Dissertation is also another difference for K-State. And this is kind of one of the key differences between the EDD program and the PhD program at K-State, is that our dissertation is integrated into the curriculum. So each fall and spring semester, you will have we call it an internship, but it's actually time and space for you to work on your dissertation chapters, and so that you'll have your proposal ready at the end of year 2, so that you can go and start doing your dissertation research. And so that's really what allows you to get finished in 3 years, and also kind of separates it out from a traditional PhD program, where you would just take coursework for 3 years, and then maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years, and then you'd start your proposal, and then you'd start your research. And so we've kind of expedited that process to where you are doing your coursework, working on your proposal, you defend your proposal, and then you do your research in that 3rd year. It's also personalized. So another difference between the PhD and the EDD program is that in a PhD program, you usually have to match your interest with a faculty member. And if the faculty member doesn't really want to work with you, then you don't get accepted to the program. The EDD is more focused on your own educational interests and research interests. And so we work with you and develop a committee of faculty that can support your research. And that's really the other kind of driving force behind me wanting to start this program, is that I care more about classroom research and research that's happening in the real world of education. And so I think this is probably the best way to make that happen. And so that's also what makes our program unique, is that we're based on kind of real world problems and research that are happening in schools right now. It's also a cohort model, and so most of you would start in summer with the rest of your classmates, and kind of work through most of the classes together. There is some room for flexibility throughout. We also occasionally have people start in the fall, but they would just kind of jump into the cohort. And we've already had a few people start this spring that wanted to start early, but they'll be part of those intro classes in the summer. And so we've had cohorts ranging from 24 to 32 people so far. Another great advantage is that for our admissions, we waive the GRE, so there's no tests required. We just ask for recommendation letters and a writing sample, which typically comes from your master's or it could be something that you've done for your district or for your schools also, but it's some sort of writing sample to see your experience with writing. Great. Good to see where everybody's from. Right. Okay, so what does a 3-year EDD look like? And so this is kind of our typical, and this is from our current cohort that just started last summer, and so will be some updating. But the outline is roughly the same. As you can see here, you'll have 3 courses in the summer. Except for the last summer, there's only 2. And then each fall and spring, you'll have 1 research methods class, which we call the inquiry classes, and then 1 of those internship classes, which is the classes in which you will work on your dissertation. So, and we've done that purposefully so that, knowing that most of our students are in schools during the school year, we hit kind of harder with the content courses in the summer. And then in the fall and spring, you really just have that research methodology course. It's probably the most time consuming. And then the writing class is more of like a workshop. And so really it's just benchmarks and there to get feedback. And so there's not weekly reading and assignments that, take up time. And so really the fall and spring is made to accommodate busy schedules. Okay. And then, as I mentioned, after that, typically in that 3rd summer is when you would defend your dissertation and your portfolio exam, and then you would start your dissertation research right after that. Okay. But the good thing is that all these classes are offered regularly. So like I said, if there's a lot of flexibility for people coming in to kind of mix things up and take things in different spots. But this is just kind of a rough outline of what's always offered during these semesters. And we have these electives here, which are, we went ahead and put educational technology classes in there because those are offered in the summer, but those are typically what we'd sub out if you have some other interests. And I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. But and so over here, you can kind of see the progression of your dissertation. And again, this is what makes our program unique in that you are thinking about your dissertation from semester 1. And so, as you're working through the program, you'll get to this 3rd summer and have your proposal basically written, having lots of feedback from various faculty, and it'll be ready to be defended. And I know there's probably some questions that are like, well, what if I change my topic? And that happens all the time. And really, what a lot of these writing classes are doing is that it's just making you a better writer. And so that if things do change, you know what you need to do for those chapters, you can kind of go back and fix those pretty quickly. And so actually our first cohort that was fully online, they were here at this point in their program and COVID-19 hit. And so they all had their research proposals pretty much ready to go, and then they all had to change. And so they were all freaking out a little bit, but all in all, it really didn't take that much work to kind of adapt those. And 3/4 of that first cohort finished early here in the spring semester of 2021, last spring. So anyways. Are there any questions at this point? So kind of a rough timeline, just kind of keeping it a little more broad. Year 1 is mostly coursework and working on your chapters 1 and 2, your dissertation proposal. Year 2 would be coursework and working on chapters 2 and 3. And then year 3 would be coursework and then kind of finalizing all your proposal chapters. Then years 3 in summer, fall, and spring would be, your preliminary exam, and then your dissertation defense, and then sometime in the spring or summer would be your dissertation defense.
Dr. Clark, we have a couple questions in the chat regarding the class schedule and class content. One of those is, what does the internship look like for full-time teachers?
Yeah, Kay, that's a great question. The name is kind of deceiving. It's not a traditional internship, so there's no hours or time spent in schools or anything like that, or you don't have to have set up with a mentor. It's just the name of the course. And the bureaucracy of higher ed, sometimes it's easier just not to have to change course names. So it's called an internship, and we kind of think it was an internship that you're thinking about your research that's in your classroom. So that's kind of the extent that that's actually an internship. But you know, there's no time that you have to set aside during your daily schedule to be part of the internship. It's, like I said, it's mostly just a writing workshop that we meet in the evenings and kind of talk about your progress on your drafts of chapter 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, so that would answer the next question. I think also that the inquiry classes are not writing focused. Those are research methods focused. The internship classes are writing focused. I know that's kind of confusing. They're both I words. And so yeah, the inquiry classes would be your quantitative and qualitative research courses, and the internship classes would be the dissertation writing classes. And so we do try to balance that out every semester too, where we may have one heavy reading class and one heavy writing class. And that's the case for the summer. For the second summer, for example, we have a whole class devoted to your lit review, which is, you know, kind of the core of your dissertation. And so that's really writing intensive. But then you also have my course, which is in curriculum theory, and that's really reading intensive. So there's not a lot of assignments, but we read and we discuss things. So we really have thought out how to balance this out so that, you know, there's not over the amount of writing or reading in one semester. Great questions. I'm working on changing that internship name because that's that's a common question, but it's above my pay grade. So, and we already talked a little bit about the PhD and EDD difference. That's a common question I get also. You know, we do have an online PhD now, but like I said, it's more based on kind of teacher ed focused research. And you would need to align your research ideas with an advisor before they would accept you. But we do have hybrid and online for that also, but it does take longer. You know, 4 years would probably be the fastest that you could finish the PhD just based on course offerings and time. Let's see what else. Yeah, and so again, the dissertation is not integrated into the PhD coursework. So you'd spend all your time doing coursework, and then you would start working on your dissertation. And so that's where a lot of people get lost or kind of get off track, is once they take their exam and they finish their coursework and they start working on the proposal. You know, that's kind of the place that things start to move a little slower. And so the EDD program has expedited that and kind of moved that along with integrating the dissertation into the coursework. The research is a little bit different too. As I mentioned, you know, the EDD is more practitioner focused. The PhD would probably be more, you know, teacher development, teacher education focused, and theory focused. The other interesting option that we have too for the EDD is that we have different types of dissertation formats. So the traditional is kind of a 5 to 6 chapter dissertation, and that's what you do in the PhD. For the EDD, we can do the traditional. We can do a curriculum project or product where you would create a new sort of curriculum. So for example, right now we have one student that's creating a whole new math curriculum. We have another student that's creating a social emotional learning and social justice combined curriculum because they're traditionally separated. We have someone who's creating a whole new kind of world language curriculum. And so we have that option of creating a curriculum product instead of doing a traditional dissertation. We also have the option of doing a 3-article dissertation, which is something that we see more in the hard sciences. But for those of you who are thinking about, you know, higher education as a possible career goal, that allows you to use that dissertation time to create articles that get published and hopefully get you a job in higher education. And so that's some of the nice options. And then we also have a collaborative option too. So if there's, you know, 2 of you in the same district, or if there's 2 of you that are looking at the same kind of topic or problem, but in different districts, so you want to look at it in different perspectives and kind of do a collaborative dissertation, we have opportunities for that also. No one's done that one yet. That takes a lot more coordination, I think. but we have people who've done the curriculum product and the 3-article dissertation. And then lastly, kind of career goals. That's the other big question I get. There seems to be a bias towards PhD, thinking that's kind of the more prestigious, but really that's not valid. Speaking from my own experience, my advisor had an EDD, and he was top 5 researchers in the country in terms of social studies education. And so it's more what you do with the degree. And so if you want to go into higher education, then you want to teach a little bit in higher education, get some experience, and you want to publish also, right? But both degrees, we have people that graduate and get jobs at whatever level they want to achieve. And recently we've had 3 students get hired at higher ed, and that was their goal coming in. And so one just got hired at Texas A&M, one at Georgia Southern, and then Montclair State in New Jersey. And then also here at KState, we just hired one of our own. So, either path will get you there, and the EDD will get you there too. So, all right, let's see. Yeah, I will be talking about financial aid here in just a second. What other questions do we have? Yeah, so the transfer credit evaluation. So first, to get started, the program of study that I showed you previously is based on 64 hours. And so what that means is that we accept your master's as 30 hours. And so the total degree is 94 hours. And so 30 hours is your master's, and then 64 hours is what you complete with us. And that's what that 3-year model is based on. So in addition to those 30 hours, we can, if you have a second master's, or if you started a doctoral program somewhere else, we can transfer in, up to 10 hours if they match courses in our program. So, it's not a difficult process, but we do need to syllabi the courses that you want to transfer in, and we kind of have to approve them with the professors that teach the similar course in our department or program. And so I would say, on this last cohort, we had probably 7 or 8 people that transferred credits in. We had quite a bit this last time, and they were all able to get anywhere from 1 to 3 classes transferred in, which makes a difference, right? That saves you at least a semester, and sometimes 2, depending on what's transferred in. So by all means, I'm happy to review those. I can look at your transcripts pretty quickly and tell you your probability of getting something through. So. Admission requirements. So, we like you to be an active educator, and that can be kind of interpreted broadly, but since it is more active, it's one way we distinguish between the PhD. And so it also makes for a really good cohort when we have people that are all educators and kind of all coming from that. But we have community college educators, higher ed educators, K through 12, preschool, all over, international. We have people from all over. So again, that educator is interpreted broadly. The grad school application fee, which will be waived, I believe, since you are joining us tonight on the webinar, and then also undergraduate and master's degree, 3.0 GPA, writing sample, as I mentioned, and then 3 letters of recommendation. And when you apply, we have some specific, examples or types of recommendation letters we'd like to see, but really we anything will work. People that can speak to you, your scholarship, your academic ability, things like that are all fine, and professional stature. Okay, the other big slide that everyone cares about is funding and financial aid. I'll go ahead and I'm going to go start from the bottom first, and then work my way up. But we have kind of traditional student loans, federal loans, and things like that. Global Campus is great and has some smaller scholarships around $3,000 for online graduate students. And there's a range of other scholarships too that you can look at through our grad school site and then, elsewhere. But the big one is the assistantships up here. And we call this group grad cats because our undergrads are ed cats at K-State. And so we have grad cat assistants. And they help with our online master's and undergraduate programs. We have a wide range. Brittany and I were just talking about this before, how much it's grown in the last 5 years of undergraduate and master's licensure programs. And so what you would do is you would be able to mentor and kind of grade some of our master's students. For example, we have a large master's program that's 1 year for licensure. And so a half-time grad cat scholarship in that area would be $6,000, and you'd be working with 5 students over the whole year, giving them feedback, grading as they go through their courses. And then we also offer full-time for that, and so that would be anywhere from 6 to 10. It's usually more like 8, and you get $12,000 a year, which at that time covered all the tuition. Now it covers the tuition and is a little bit more, so that's even better. It actually would cover a whole nother class, I think, per year now. But anyhow, so those are the two things, and that really sets us apart as a program from not only the PhD program at at K-State, but it sets us apart from every other program across the country. No one else is able to fund doctoral students in that way. We currently have 51 of our 80 students on scholarship, which is pretty crazy, and it makes for a really great program, especially for those of you who are even just thinking about, hey, one day I might want to work in higher education. You're getting experience working with and teaching students in our programs. So that's a big part of that step into getting into higher education. And, I just give you an example of one program to you. We have other programs too, and things that we kind of work with you on your interests and your expertise to kind of fit you into our program. All right. And we actually, I have to admit, it's not for everyone. People get in there, and if you don't like it, it's easy to kind of jump out and you're not committed to anything. We can kind of change, but one of my students just graduated, just defended her dissertation last week, and she emailed me today and said, can I please stay on and be a grad cat? I'm going to miss working with the MAT students. And so, you are able to kind of really impact future educators, especially at a time when we have such a large teacher shortage. We have this large group of teachers from all over the world that are coming through our program, that are going out and teaching. And so you have a really big impact on the future of education. So the assistantship positions are not listed. When you apply, you can let me know that if you're interested in that or not. There's actually a place on the application where you can let us know if you're interested in assistantship. And then if you are, you're welcome to follow up and just send me your resume, but it's also in your application, so I can pull it up there. And so I just kind of have a running list, and as we find out what our numbers are for enrollment, we kind of just start placing people kind of in order of that they signified that they were interested. So yeah, I know people kind of ask for listing, but it's not something that's so concrete that we can kind of list it. But I would say roughly, if you're thinking about hours, time-wise, a half-time would probably be 5 to 10 hours a week, just depending on how you work. And then the full-time would be a few more hours after that, probably. But it is all online. So you can do it at your leisure, if you're a morning person, or if you're a late night person, or if you're a after school type person. I'm just making these up. You can kind of do your work whenever it works for you. I have some other kind of commonly asked questions. Let me look at the chat here real fast. Let's see, Rachel. No, Rachel, you don't need to have a dissertation topic picked out. I'd say it's about 50-50 of people coming in that have like an idea or know exactly what they want to do. And then the other half are, just thinking about it. They have kind of, a handful of things they might be interested in. And then sometimes they start reading and, things in classes catch their attention, and they go down a different path. And so by no means do you have to have anything figured out. And actually, that's what the first semester is kind of all about. You have an introduction to EDD course where you can kind of figure out your topic. And then in my class, the history of education, you're allowed to kind of take a topic and look at it historically and see if it's of interest to you. Oh, great, Brittany. Yeah, I forgot about the tuition installment payment plan, which works out really nicely. And the best thing about the assistantships too, sorry, I actually gone back. These are scholarships, so you're not taxed on it. It just goes directly to your registrar account, and as you enroll in classes, it deducts that money out. Initially, when we started doing this, we pay you a stipend, and they took taxes out, and so this way you get to keep that full $6,000 or $12,000. And if you don't use it all semester, it just transfers over to your next semester, or they send you a check. So it's straight kind of cash towards your tuition. Which who doesn't like that?
Real quick, there are a couple more questions. One primarily about whether it would be possible to work across other programs with this doctorate. For instance, if they want to research something in STEM, could they work with science or math to develop the research effort? What would that look like?
Yeah, Leonard, that's a great question. So there is flexibility. I know I kind of gave you a structured program of study there, but there's actually anywhere from 4 to 5 classes that you could kind of sub in and sub out. So if there was things that you wanted to take in other departments, you could definitely do that. We also have STEM courses in our department that people are subbing in and out for. So, but we do have a physics teacher right now who's taking a course in the physics department as an elective this summer to kind of fill in. So yeah, once you're in the graduate school of Kansas State, you can take courses across the campus. So that's definitely a possibility. And then Kay, what is the graduation rate approximately? I can kind of give that to you in 2 ways. So we've only had 1 cohort that's completely finished. So out of that cohort, we had, let's see, it was 75% graduation rate from those who started the program. It was 100% graduation rate from those who made it past the first year. So we had, I think, 3 or 4 people, before that dropped out of the program within the first year. And that's typically the case, is we do have a little bit of attrition in that first year. And so with our second cohort, it's roughly the same. We had several kind of drop the first year, but then so far we've already had 7 out of the 18 graduate or defend their dissertation early this spring. And so we'll probably have another at least 7 this summer, and then the rest should be able to finish in the fall. So to answer, that was a long way to answer your question. Approximately, for those who were in second and third year, it was 100%. Overall, it's probably around 75%. And then let's see, Pat. Right now, the acceptance is pretty fast. It changes, and Brittany might know more about this, but as we get closer to the May 1st deadline, it slows up a little bit, but we've been having applications turn around in a couple of days. And so we usually accept, I know May 1st is kind of our deadline, but we accept up till May 15th, and that usually gives us enough time for you to get set up and get started for courses to start in June. So you didn't hear me say that though. May 1st is the normal deadline. Let's see. Yeah, so then kind of some of the other common questions. Not everybody's ready to start in the summer, and that's understandable. We do have people, we usually have 3 or 4 that start in the fall and 3 or 4 that start in the spring. And so that's perfectly fine. And we just have to kind of adapt and it's a different program of study in some ways, but it works out. And we just had our first person actually defend yesterday that started in the fall. She finished up. And then how do students complete internships uniquely tailored to their context? And so, yeah, I already answered that question a little bit about the internships. It's not a traditional internship, but it's you working on your research, kind of setting that up. And then I already answered that one about master's and graduate credit. Yeah, so this is the other big one. We have a lot of people that have their master's in leadership and administration, and they want to get the superintendent endorsement and license. And so if you do have that principal's license, what we do is we create a separate program of study for you, and we can sub in all those superintendent courses into our program of study, and you can walk away with a doctorate and your superintendent's endorsement all at the same time. A lot of people like that because they don't want to get their doctorate in leadership again. They want some of that curriculum instruction and because a lot of times principals are expected to be curriculum leaders also, and so that way you get a mix of both leadership and curriculum. And we can also flip that to, if you want to get your EDD in leadership, we can create a curriculum instruction emphasis within that, and you can still get your superintendent license and do that. So we can work it from both ways. We also have other, okay, sorry, that's the last question. I'll get down there. Are all courses set? Are there options based on interest? Yeah, so I just answered that one too. There's a lot of flexibility. For example, we have couple of counselors that are in our program, and they want, their research is they want to find ways to kind of connect a lot of the curriculum initiatives that they're pushing out through their office and connect with teachers and how to make that work. So they want a CNI degree, but they're coming from that kind of counseling and student support lens and mindset. And so it's a really nice way for them to, and we have one of the best counseling departments in the country, and we have that international counseling organization housed at KState also. So it's a great place to kind of combine those things. And so then that kind of leads into the last one where, excuse me. In addition to like the superintendent endorsement, we have a reading endorsement that we can sub in. We have a technology or an instructional technology certificate that you can get in addition to the doctorate. We have qualitative research certificate. You can get it in a social justice education certificate. And let's see what else. We do have like math emphasis. We have an ELA emphasis. We're starting to give enough social studies people. I think we're going to have a social studies emphasis here pretty soon too. And that's where we just kind of give you some like 3 or 4 courses to sub in for those electives, that if that's where you want to specialize. Okay. People tend to really like those. So again, applications are due May 1st. That gives us all the time in the world to get everything set up and get you advised and ready to go. And classes usually start that first week of June. And I think that's the case. I know mine start, I think June 6th or somewhere around there. So, and KState doesn't have a distinct summer schedule, and so the classes can be kind of varying in time frame, but overall they're really flexible. I know a lot of people go on vacation during the summer. We've had numerous students do that before, and everything works out just fine. With it being asynchronous, people are able to either do work while they're a little bit of work while they're on vacation, or they make arrangements with the professors to get stuff done ahead of time, or make up for it when they get back. And so all in all, we're very flexible in both kind of structuring what you want to do and meeting your needs and interests, but then also kind of in understanding the way life works out and all the things that are happening at the same time. So hopefully that's come through in my presentation tonight. And I'm happy to set you up with students if you would like to talk to students who are in the program that can kind of speak to that flexibility. So All right. Some questions, it looks like. Our classes 8-week programs? No, well, in the summer they are. Most classes in the summer are anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. During fall and spring, though, they are a traditional kind of 14-week semester. So that should answer the other question too about how long each course is. So that they're typically, like I said, 6 to 8 weeks in summer, 14 weeks in fall and spring. There is an exam, but it's not kind of a traditional exam. It's a portfolio, and so you will collect artifacts and present on the things that you feel like demonstrate kind of our graduate student learning outcomes. And so we actually combine that portfolio presentation with your proposal presentation. And so you have one defense at the end of your coursework that incorporates your exam and your proposal. And so that's another way that we expedite the process and get you done in 3 years. Part-time studies allowed. You can go as fast or as slow as you would like through the program. We've just set it up so because that 3 years seems to be something that's attractive to people in terms of the program. But yeah, you're allowed to do part-time. We have several people that are doing that. The only downside to that is that if you are on scholarship, you have to be enrolled in 6 hours each semester. So, but that would be 2 hours. That would be 2 courses. Sorry, 2 to 3 courses per year. Yeah. So, that would not qualify for a scholarship, but that would be the only drawback. Any other questions?
Could you give some examples of writing samples that would be appropriate for the application? This person's master's was completed over a decade ago and they aren't currently published, so they're just wondering what would be good for that.
Yeah, we get that question a lot. I don't know, it kind of depends on the person and what your role is, but I mean, older masters samples are fine. If you've done anything recently, courses recently, if you worked on, curriculum guides or anything for your district or school, that's fine. Anything that you've written at all, I mean, we can use that as a basis. Anything that's been used for an audience for someone else to read, I guess, would be kind of the distinguishing point. But yeah, I'm happy to work with them on finding something appropriate if need be. Any other questions? Yeah, Brittany, could you put the link to apply in the chat for me?
Yes.
Or if I can, because the way it's set up, I can't do it easily off of this.
Yeah, I can get it in there.
And to get the waiver code, you can email Brittany and she'll give you the code to waive the application fee.
Yeah, so everybody who attended tonight is eligible for an application fee waiver code. Just email that email address on your screen when you're ready to apply and we'll get you a code. Also, if there are questions that you have that we didn't get to tonight, you can reach out to us at that email and we'll help you out or we'll connect you with Spencer. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Can I answer any other questions for anybody? I know I've kind of went through fairly quickly, but I think the major things to kind of think about are, again, kind of the flexibility, time frame, dissertations built in, potential scholarships. Those are kind of the things that distinguish us from our own PhD and other programs. Sure, Rachel. Other career opportunities. So we've had students who went on to be director of first generation student programs at a local university. We've had people who are now curriculum directors in districts. We have one person who is a director at the state level for this Kansas State Department of Education. We have an individual who's working at, this is a little more random, but he is a recruiter at Duke University in China. We have, I'm trying to think who else. We have people that are working in international schools in other countries. Trying to think what else. Let's see. I mentioned Georgia Southern, Texas A&M, Montclair State. We have a couple that are still teaching exactly what that's exactly what they want to do. They want to get their doctorate and kind of stay in the classroom, and they're continuing to work with us on research in their classroom. And so they're really informing practice in their districts. One's a kindergarten teacher and one's seventh grade English language teacher. Trying to think what else. And then we have a couple others that are on the job market, but a whole range. Then we have, we have two principals also. So. Any other questions? Well, I am happy to set up a time to chat individually. If you would like, I'm available to kind of, talk about how the program can meet your specific needs. And that really is another thing that really, that's kind of implied in that flexibility, is that we're here to kind of, allow you to research and address educational problems that you think are important and that you don't have to find somebody else that approves of. We have one student right now who's looking at classical education, which is kind of a small group of educators across the country, and she's looking at how to teach science through that. And so, this program is the only thing that allowed her to kind of do that and explore her own interest in that world. So, we're excited about that, and we think hopefully it'll lead to some, significant changes in education. All right.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. In the chat, I put Dr. Clark's email, as well as the online@ksu.edu email. Please reach out to that when you're ready to request an application fee waiver for attending tonight. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, this was recorded, so we will be getting that recording sent out to you when we receive it back, hopefully sometime next week. So keep an eye out for that as well. And if there aren't any other questions, I can let everybody go. And thank you, Dr. Clark, for that great presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you all. I know you need to see you, but nice to meet you one way or another.
Have a good night.
Thanks.